Miles smiled as he leaned back in his chair. He and his friends were relaxing in a small, cramped room, wearing tight pants and open shirts. They all wore protective rings, customized into small objects containing axiom power. Their physical training made them look more like strippers than soldiers. There were no weapons, only the cutter and gist rings that Miles had forced them to practice with until they could not only create good shields but also turn them into offensive weapons, necessary for this mission. They were deep in enemy territory, surrounded by alien women, and pretending to be attracted to them as a distraction. All the women were armed and there were guards around the room. Only Captain Leela was with them besides the armed women, and the lone leader standing behind a thin curtain, with a large glowing cigar in the darkness. "I must admit, Captain Ipor, you make an attractive offer," a deep, husky female voice said from behind the curtain. A large silhouette appeared, along with the dim light of the giant cigar. "Your product is very good and you're clearly a wealthy woman even if your little ship doesn't show it," the silhouette said. "That's a silly feature of this galaxy. If your ship looks bad, they'll think you're a pirate or trafficker, not someone running something," Agenda remarked as she swirled her drink. "Come here, my pet, how do you find the position?" she asked Miles, who stepped over and took a small sip. "A bit strong," he whispered, then lifted the glass to her lips. "I like it very much," he said loudly. "Then you can drink it, my little pet," she cooed as he took that drink, toxic to her but only slightly strong for him. "This is sensible, my little one, I hope the drink isn't too strong for you. Perhaps you'd like some sweet usha fruit to soften it," she offered, and a flower-shaped tray of bright yellow fruit covered in crystallized usha honey appeared from behind the curtain. "No thank you, madam. Sweet is rarely the sensation I seek," Miles said haughtily, deliberately making the woman uneasy. "Now, my little pet, there's no need to be rude. You're drinking the generous woman's drink and have been offered her food as well, refusing is rude," Agenda laughed. "If you insist, my love," Miles said in a fake voice, biting into a hard candy that tasted like grapes with the texture of dried oranges. He nearly spat it out due to the strangeness. The woman behind the curtain relaxed a bit, then seemed confused when Miles took a sip of the drink. "Are you sure you don't like the Liga fruit? I find they go very well with more allure," she asked, and Miles shook his head. "No, I'm fine," he replied, and the air became tense. The men in the room tried not to nod in agreement. "I must insist," she said, and Agenda tilted her head. "Madam Vex, are you worried? Is something wrong?" Agenda asked, knowing full well what was about to happen. The mob boss surely wanted the men to sell or use personally. The curtain was pulled back and 8 plasma guns were aimed at Agenda. "Drink the antidote now," Madam Vex shouted, and Miles immediately punched her hard in the face with hardened light, sending her flying to the ceiling. The room erupted with the sound of plasma guns and heavy impacts. Agenda didn't stay out of the fun either, rushing in to kill 4 criminals. "Well done, boys. Arm yourselves. Franklin, you're up," Agenda ordered as the criminals' weapons were collected and the room's exit was carefully guarded. "Report, soldier," Miles commanded. Franklin reported the situation and they continued with their plan to seize the treasure. The situation became tense as Miles interacted with Madame Vex, a powerful and dangerous woman. The room details were full of mystery and danger, with armed women and the men in Miles' group pretending to be attracted to them as a distraction. Madame Vex, hidden behind a thin curtain with light from a large cigar, began to scrutinize Miles' group carefully. She made offers, testing the sincerity of Miles and his team, trying to uncover their true intentions. However, the tension increased as Miles and his group continued to maintain their act, not revealing any trace of the truth. The dialogues became increasingly tense and rapid, creating a heavy and dangerous atmosphere. The meeting reached its climax when Madame Vex noticed the abnormality in Miles' behavior. With a sudden move, the curtain was pulled back and 8 plasma guns were aimed at Agenda, one of the important members of the group. Not caught off guard, Miles quickly reacted, punching Madame Vex hard in the face with hardened light, sending her flying to the ceiling. The battle broke out immediately in the room, with the sound of plasma guns and powerful impacts. The armed women rushed into the fight, but Miles' group was ready and not subdued. Agenda, not wanting her team to bear all the danger, plunged into the battle, taking weapons from fallen criminals and shooting down 4 enemies in just seconds. She ordered her team to arm themselves with the criminals' weapons and carefully guard the room's exit. Franklin, the group's technology specialist, quickly took action. He approached Madame Vex, placed his hand on her head, and said firmly, "Your thoughts are my thoughts, your mind is my mind." Both began to convulse, and after a moment, he released her, then cursed when he realized there wasn't enough necessary information. Madame Vex, with bright red skin and 6 hair tentacles, began to regain consciousness but was immediately captured by him. Miles ordered Franklin to report the situation, and he quickly provided crucial information. The vault's password is divided into multiple parts. If she dies, it won't work. If the password is entered incorrectly, it also won't work. With this information, Miles and his team knew they had to keep Madame Vex alive and alert to access the treasure. The group quickly planned their move, keeping Madame Vex in a safe but tightly controlled state. Jake, one of the group's strong members, took responsibility for carrying Madame Vex and they began to advance into the dangerous hallway. Agenda led the group, moving quickly and efficiently, eliminating any enemies that appeared on their path. Franklin guided them to a secret door, opening a passage down to the lower level, leading them closer to the treasure. Despite facing many challenges, Miles' group didn't lose spirit, continuing to move forward with confidence and determination. They knew that each step brought an opportunity to complete the mission and achieve the ultimate goal. Miles' group's journey into the vault became more dramatic as they faced the final challenges. Agenda led the group, eliminating 3 Hawker guards in seconds without missing a step. Franklin guided them to a secret door, opening a passage to the lower level, bringing them closer to the treasure. When the group approached the large door covered with sensors, Franklin instructed them to place Madame Vex in front of the door and hold her tentacles in the correct position. A complex password was entered, and the vault door opened, revealing a treasure trove filled with axiom ride bars, each worth millions of credits. Agenda couldn't suppress her surprise at the enormous wealth before her eyes. However, the group had no time to savor the victory. Franklin quickly pulled out an acid-proof bag from behind his teeth, retrieving a small data chip that his body had perfectly concealed. He opened a control panel on the wall, connected the data chip, and the security system began to automatically infiltrate. Agenda asked about the password, and Franklin replied that no password was needed on this terminal as it was inside the vault. The security system was breached, and Franklin entered the code into the terminal. The screen switched to display an image of Gula on the command bridge. "Hello Gula, let Mercy and Jin know it's time. I want this entire palace flooded with armor and gun-wielding women. We've taken the security system, captured the leader, and opened the vault. This is ours." Gula asked in surprise, "Captain, are those axiom ride bars really that valuable?" "That's right, Gula, we've just achieved our biggest victory yet. We're rich," Miles grinned, unable to hide his joy. "Frank, how did you do that?" Beck asked from behind as Gula rejoiced in her seat. "I tried and failed to splice things together from pure axiom or convert it to axiom, and disassemble it in that state, basically converting everything into energy for the local axiom field. The initial energy is when it's in the axiom state, then it disappears when I put it in." "You're truly terrifying, someone in the group said. Indeed, from someone who can crush iron poles like soda cans, Franklin replied, smiling. After establishing complete control, Miles' group began planning their next move. They would have to transport this enormous treasure out of here without being detected or intercepted. Agenda, Miles, Franklin, and the others knew that the next challenge would be no less dangerous, but with their determination and intelligence, nothing was impossible. They were prepared for any obstacles on the road ahead, determined to bring a perfect victory for their team.